13. I know I heard something, Rink said. I need hard proof, though. It could have been people hiking, answering back. It sounded exactly like Martin's call. The team sat at a round table beside a window facing the interior rooms of the motel across a courtyard and an open veranda with a pool where two children splashed and played in some imaginary world of contained, chlorinated water as their oblivious mother sunned in a lounger. The sun had not dipped below the level of the second floor of the motel, but it would in less than 3 hours. You heard it. Is that not proof? Cable asked. I heard something. Rink, this is the expedition that will change your mind, Robo said as he ate a piece of Flo's cheesecake. Not the pie, and by the look on his face, he didn't care if it was $1 or 10. Still with a mouthful, he added, Too much smoke for there to be no fire. Did everyone sleep? Billy asked, trying to change the subject. He wondered why the entire crew was on edge, and then he glanced at Harrison before turning his attention back to the remainder of the group, hopefully in search of some other answer. Like a baby, Robo said, looking to the others who may not have fared as well. Cable turned up his nose and made a face. Rink shook her head, while Harrison didn't indicate one way or the other. Petra smiled. After everyone finished eating, Billy produced a big map and spread it across the table like a general who has devised a plan to invade a hostile country. Mrs. Bennet's house and pasture was the battlefield marked with an X. Bring down that wall. Rink and I will walk toward the forest and up these big mountain here to overlook the scene, Billy said, knowing full well they would first get a camera shot in Mrs. Bennet's drive of the team discussing plans. We'll take Grant. You guys are going to the other side of the valley. Robes, you got that laser pointer? Don't leave home without it. Think it will reach our location? One way to find out. Mrs. Bennet and Savannah were cutting limbs from a tree beside the yard in the midst of the still, balmy, late afternoon when the investigators arrived. Joan and her daughter sat in their side yard, watching. Savannah barked once and begged to be lifted off the ground, where she walked as if her paws were wet. Of course, Mrs. Bennet obliged. Hello, Mrs. Bennet, Billy said as they began to unload. My friends, Billy continued, motioning to the crew as if he held a prize-winning cake in his palm. Here to see the Bigfoot. Mrs. Bennet smiled, making certain to do her best and irritate her neighbors. Here to film Bigfoot, hopefully, Robo said. He had his supplies. His hat, what was in his pockets, which was probably a bottle of water and his laser pointer, and a crooked walking stick that looked to be more for appearances than use. Mrs. Bennet made her way slowly to the rear of the vehicle where a considerable pile of equipment was forming, and she eyed the women watching from across the dirt path and shook her head in disdain. Worthless as teats on a boar hog, she muttered. Billy raised his eyebrows as Robo chuckled. Ever the peacemaker, Rink tried to move the conversation to a better place. We'll be late returning, Mrs. Bennet. You rest up. We'll let you know our results. With her filming and obligations met, and with the personal satisfaction that a television crew and celebrities were not at Joan's house, Mrs. Bennet waddled inside, content to watch the show's progress from her window. After the obligatory filming of preparation, Gable's group set off in the opposite direction from Billy and Rink. The evening's investigation was underway. What is this crap that gets on your pant legs? Harrison asked. He had wandered off the trail a bit and now had sticky cockleburs on both legs. That Xanthum strabarium, Gable announced. The common cocklebur. The Bigfoot probably has them all over his fur. He'd probably pick 'em off, Robo said. Nothing much else to do. Watch his hygiene. All over my pants, Harrison said, picking mightily as the others high-stepped toward the valley. We might never get close enough to see that detail, Cable said to Robo. But o'er the heavens, he had found a narrow path leading to more trees and was walking more freely. Says you, Robo said. Each of the team members had cameras mounted to their heads. The night vision would come in handy soon. The night bugs had begun to sing in unison, like a fading lamppost in a quiet city parking lot. Wonder what Mr. Bigfoot does for entertainment, Harrison joked. Catch a movie? Might be a Mrs. Bigfoot, Robo said. Might look for Mr. Bigfoot. In the wild, you know. That's what people used to do before the internet. Maybe he'd watch me, Harrison said, steering the conversation into his area. You been in one of those movies on the internet? Robo asked. I know what you're saying, and no, it was a Hollywood movie. What movie? Gable asked. Maybe we've seen it then. Flamethrower, Harrison answered. It was a speaking part. Well, good for you, Gable said. The conversation might have ended there as they trudged along as night fell, had Harrison not continued. I was a guy trying to rescue a girl from a maniac. With a flamethrower? Robo asked. No, he had a machete. He was asking if you had a flamethrower, Gable said. No, but we might need one out here. The trail wasn't bad at all now, and in fact wound around a grove of trees as if it had been designed by a lethargic parks and recreation worker. Out of boredom or curiosity, no one knew. Gable needed to know the outcome of Harrison's situation with the machete-wielding maniac. You save her? Gable asked. No, I died. That's too bad. Pure sarcasm, but pointed anyway. Gable had a way of striking a raw nerve. No one cared what he thought, one way or the other, but yet his indifference was aggravating. Then it happened. Petra thought initially that Harrison was performing some type of ridiculous graceful leap, like a dancer in a ballet crossing the stage, accompanied by a tiny squawk that sounded like surprise. He dipped and dabbed with his arms in a twisting move not unlike an awkward dive into a pool, and when he hit the ground, he did not roll, but rather skidded to a stop with a grunt like an unskilled boxer as all the air in his lungs made an exit. Petra giggled, the camera bouncing uncontrollably. Gable and Robo stopped and watched him climb to his feet. Neither of them spoke or showed much reaction at first. Glad it wasn't them. It had been before. Harrison seemed to check out his extremities, which were still intact, as he dusted himself off. This goes from bad to worse, Harrison muttered. Did you get it? Gable asked. Petra, who was shaking with quiet laughter, a failed attempt at not making light of the fall, nodded and said, I did. I got it all. You're the outsider, right? Gable prodded. Beat the locals. Be an objective skeptic. Well, at least give me a heads up when there are obstructions, Harrison said, trying to save face. The fall had stolen Harrison's burgeoning confidence and enthusiasm, and as they searched and waited for a Bigfoot, he remained silent. Soon, they sat for a while, then radioed Billy before making a call, which neither Billy nor Rink could hear. The night was quiet. They were alone. Billy and Rink had hiked to the apex of a high ridge, then along the top, following what might have been a deer trail, able to see the sloping hillside and a valley below. The glow of a town sat in the distance, but otherwise not a single light was visible. The night had grown long, and they had literally nothing to show for the night's investigation. They, too, decided to sit and rest, and for once, listen, even if it was to nothing. The team extinguished all of the equipment. Maybe the electronics had something to do with Bigfoot's absence. Grant found a tree to lean against and closed his eyes. Within moments, his soft snores leaked out into the stillness. Billy and Rink smiled to each other. Nothing on the night vision. No sounds, no cicadas or frogs, no breeze ruffling the trees, no traffic in the distance, no gurgling water, Billy whispered to Rink as they sat on the open ridge to watch the vast expanse below them. Rink shrugged her shoulders. Maybe that's it, Billy continued. What? Something is here, and we don't see it or hear it. The creatures know, though. Rink raised her eyebrows, then pursed her lips like she was sucking on a gumdrop. She readjusted and turned to Billy. We're co-workers, she began. More like you're my boss, I guess. No hierarchy exists. You know that. Well, you get the team together. Really, we work by your favor. If that was the case, our team wouldn't look exactly like it does. Okay, point taken, Rink interjected. But we know lots about each other. Can I ask you a personal question? Of course. Does it get any easier? Hiking? Waiting? I don't know, probably. No, she interrupted. I mean not having that person in your life. Oh, Billy said. Now he sucked on the gumdrop. Probably. That's it? Probably? I'll let you know if and when it does, Billy said. How about that? That was one of the most indirect answers I've ever heard, and one of the most poignant. The darkness waited. What about you? You have an answer for that question? Billy asked. No. It's why I asked. I didn't choose my situation. It chose for me. Rink seemed to consider the statement and said nothing. We have to live our lives. Maybe there's something out there I'm supposed to do. Right now, it seems like this is it. I have this overwhelming desire to find out the truth about Bigfoot. It's all I think about. I have to know. But when will you know? Or realize or decide that it's been long enough, if you don't ever find proof? I'll let you know, Billy said. Again, one of those pauses, but it didn't seem awkward or forced. It just was. There are times when I think I still love him. Most of the time I'm simply angry, Rink said, and this time she could have just as easily been informing the night of her thoughts, speaking to herself, trying to make sense in her mind. But as long as I wait, I know one thing. I could wait 1,000 years, and he still would not love me. Not really. Billy didn't look at Rink, but said, I'm sorry. She didn't respond and instead moved the dry grass around between her feet as if she might start a fire that would burn the hurt out of her heart. When they had waited as long as they could manage, they began the long walk back to Mrs. Bennet's house. The sun would rise soon. Another day of searching and not finding would begin. Another day of longing. Remember, if you are enjoying this program, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you.